Okay, take two. This is the Gentleman Scholar. Um, it's long time that this video has come out. I saw a video by Kane Rob Piper, who was just reminiscing about his brother who just passed away. And I thought, of course, I'm in that headspace right now, so of course I gravitated towards it. I don't follow Kane Rob Piper that closely, but that subject matter resonated. You see, my husband, you may have heard me mention him before on this particular channel. My husband Bill passed away about 3 weeks ago. And if I talk about him and I start to misstep, I'm going to hit pause from time to time. I just figured out how that worked, but I just thought I'd get that out there. Um, I'd like to thank W.R. Kane for the little tribute he put out about 3 weeks ago. And yeah, I'll admit it. I've been crying ever since. I don't want to make this a long, protracted thing because I've been crying for 3 weeks, and I don't want to dwell on every little detail. But yeah, Bill and I were together for 20 years, and it seems like a huge chunk, and it also doesn't seem like enough. And I'd like to show you that picture up there that you see. That's a sketch, a sketch of him from a local artist that I know. That's when we went up to Nova Scotia together. Interesting trip. Um, Back when he had his Beamer Z3 that he was on the that was on the ferry with him. We got to drive around. I believe we were going to a place in Maine up to Nova Scotia. I believe it was Halifax. Anyway, but I digress. Um, yeah, so I've been pretty much bawling for 3 weeks. Bill had he had this pathology that he was going to die soon anyway. I'll be glad when I'm out of this crappy world. And I think he really didn't mean it. Um, I don't think he really wanted to die. Not really until the time he really did want to die, which is probably towards the end. Um, Fix this a little bit. Yeah, for the last 10 years, we've been in and out of the hospital for one thing or the other. He um, he was a walking medical calamity. He even told me this on our first date. He had problems with his back, problems with his femoral artery, and even knowing that, I wouldn't have changed anything. Um, I regret nothing, but the last 10 years has been a tilt-a-whirl ride of doctor's visits for various maladies, a lot of them unrelated. One time it was his spine, twice. Another time it was his complications with his femoral artery. Another time it was with his kidneys. Another time he accidentally broke his wrist. The guy was just accident prone. But he took good care of me. And I hope, excuse me, and I hope I took good care of him, um, especially towards the end. Towards the end, I mean, the latest time, we went for a screening of his blood. It was like late August. Um, Went for labs, and you have trouble with your kidneys again. So we went to the we went to the ER, and it was by this time it's no big deal. I brought him there, and it was almost like standard operating procedure, and things were going smoothly. And the whole idea was to get him back for hospice because he had his liver was leaking fluid, cirrhosis. It's not just a boozer's disease, but having said that, he did do his fair amount of drinking, probably because of me. Um, but yeah, he had to have fluid drained out of him once every couple of weeks, like 5 liters at a time. So the plan was to get him, once we got him out, once he got his fluids relegated, his fluids leveled off. We were going to get him. We were going to bring him into hospice at first, but for some reason I said, no, well, we have to get him to rehab so he can walk around the house, so he can go to the bathroom when he needs to. So I ended up at Villa Crest, which is it's literally 2 streets from my house. So for the next 6 weeks, he had his residency there, and he was every now and again I had to bring him bring him to the main hospital to get his fluids drained again, and he was having trouble walking. He was getting weaker all the time. The rehab that he was supposed to have was just taxing him more and more and more. And I remember like when he had his one meal in the dining room with the other people, I remember just bawling. I remember just looking around, and he looked like a little boy just eating his soup. And excuse me, he looked like a little boy eating his soup. Just, and I looked all around the room, and all these people. I wondered about their lives, how they ended up here. I knew how Bill ended up here, and I just felt this really huge flush of beauty and sadness. And I remember how scared he was when he ended up at Villa Crest, because I drove him from the hospital to Villa Crest, and he looked all scared because the last time he ended up in a mid grade rehab facility, it was a nightmare. He texted me to come and rescue him. That was about 9 years ago. He goes, if you don't pull me out of here, I'm crawling home. So I went and rescued him and discharged him. So he was afraid that this place was going to be the same, and it wasn't. They really took care of him. He had two Sudanese nurses that really took care of him. Um, I would go on trips, and he would be out there in his wheelchair, alone in the sun, and he looked so drawn. I mean, the last 2 years of him, having liver problems and bowel problems and kidney problems, they really took a lot out of him. He looked very hollow and very gaunt. And yeah, I would come to see him in my uniform real quick. In the beginning, he was in his on the patio because early October was warm, and on days off, I would sit with him and converse. And every day when I'd go to see him, and then hell, even one time after a doctor's appointment, we actually went to go buy furniture. Those lean up chairs that help you stand up. We got two of them. His was right over there that he never got to use because he never came home again, and I'm sitting in the other. And I had to transfer him out of the car, transfer him into his chair, and I was actually getting good at it. And I was committed to doing it, however long he was going to stay at home. And to be honest, I was looking at another year tops the way things were going. But as I was picturing about a year when he was just going to get weaker, I discovered that hospice doesn't cover the nurse. By the way, yeah, you can be on hospice, you can call them, but if you need to be tended to while you're gone, his insurance wouldn't cover it. So I was kind of wondering how I'm gone. I was doing 1 day turns out of Logan Airport, and I was wondering how are we going to cover that, because that's, I don't know how many, an hour. No, it sucks that you have to like worry about money with this sort of thing. So I got rid of the couch. I got these two chairs put in. Did that all by my lonesome. And then we finally went to go have that catheter put in where he could be manually pumped by myself or a nurse when he was at home. And he would come home until the time to say goodbye finally happened. But after that operation, his health just fell off a cliff. I mean, I guess his body just couldn't take anymore. And he was on morphine for the first part of the week. That was the week of October 13th, and that whole week he was just out of it. And I think I knew deep down that his time was coming soon, because I would go in before work, and he'd just be out of it, and I'd be bawling. And um, that last weekend I spent with him, um, Sunday, October 19th was his last day on Earth. And excuse me, sorry. Sunday the 19th was his last day on Earth. He could barely whisper, and he asked one of the nurses if he could have some sherbet. He'd been trying to get orange sherbet, and Villa Crest was always running out of it. My husband, God love him, God rest his soul, he was always a fussy guy. So all of a sudden I felt this urgency. I'll go get some. I'll go get some. And I happened to know the place that had some out of this 5 mile area. So I shot off to Shaw's supermarket over in Hooksett. And the place where towards the end Bill was doing most of his shopping because he liked the selection. Got a half gallon of orange sherbet. And even then I was like, sort of look at the places that we used to go. We used to go to that restaurant. We used to, as if he was already gone. And but I just felt that urgency to go get it. And I ran back. And it was basically his lunch. So I would feed him. I would feed him some of the orange sherbet, and then I would take one myself so we could have time to get it down. And he'd stopped eating, too. He couldn't eat solids anymore. So that's what I do. I would give him like a spoonful of sherbet, take one myself, and excuse me, I would take one. He would take one, and he whispered to me, "I love you," and he fell asleep. And I didn't. I had every plan of coming in the next day. I asked the nurses to, could you please put this in a freezer somewhere so I can feed him some more when I come in tomorrow? I knew the time was close. I just didn't know exactly when. I went. I mean, he was sleeping all the afternoon. He took his last bit of morphine. He asked the nurse for two, but of course she refused. Um, so about 4:30, I went home, tried to take my mind off of it. I was kind of on tenterhooks, and I went to sleep, and all of a sudden my phone goes off at 3:30 in the morning. I asked the nurse first of all. I said, "The nurse, what's the procedure when if he does go? What happens? Because I prefer to be there if he did go, but we don't have choice. We don't have a choice in any of these things." But they said, "Well, if he does go, we call you we call you like within minutes after it happens." It's like, okay, cool. And I wasn't expecting that to happen yet or so soon. Do we ever? So I went home. 3:30 in the afternoon. The phone rings. What else could it be? Your husband has just passed away. It's like, did you want to come now or did you want to come in the morning? And I'll go now. I'll go now. It's only right down the street. So I went, got let in, and there he was. The way I left him, his mouth was still open, and I kissed him on the forehead. His body was still warm. I just gathered all of his stuff out of the bureau. His back, not his backpack, but his duffel bag. I just gathered all the stuff out because I just didn't want to do it in the morning. His roommate was still there, so I left and then tried to get some sleep. Couldn't get any sleep. At 5:30, 2 hours later, 5:30, they called to tell me that the funeral home had come to get him, and that was it. That's when I began my bill-free existence. Excuse me. No, no, I think I'm gonna be okay. Anyway, I've been getting all kinds of sympathy cards. Um, the whole insurance thing went through easily. The cremation thing went easily. Thank you for those of you who knew and reached out. You know who you are. Um, and yeah, I mean, my sister's been there for me. I've been to her place. I don't know how many times since it happened, and we just talked. Of course, from time to time, I get hit with a crying fit. Um, it's just a healing thing. I mean, I remember the Wednesday after he left. I mean, I was bawling, and I was like, "Could you please give me a sign that you're around? I need a sign." And I got several. I won't bore you with the actual details, but certain things happen that really can't be explained, and it was his way of letting me know that he was there. And ever since he passed, I keep a journal. I've kept one on and off for like God since 1987. Wish I would have started sooner too. I could have caught all that high school angst, but anyway, yeah, I write him letters in my journal, just letting him know what's going on, and of course I cry some more. It's all part of the healing process, I guess. It's my way of letting him know what's going on, although I'm sure he probably already knows. But the thing that Rod Piper said in his video that prompted me finally to do this video is that it's a blessing if you know that, or have a sense that the conversation you have with your loved one's going to be your last. And I think deep down I kind of knew. And it played out pretty much exactly the way you want it to play out. His last words to me were, I love you. Excuse me. He told me those words early in our relationship, maybe a little too early, and I tried to push him away. I mean, you've only known me for not even a month yet. How can you possibly love me? That was 20 years ago. Marriage isn't easy. Sometimes it was rocky. But I really love the guy dearly. And in a way, he did me a favor by not coming home for hospice because I don't know if I could have taken it if he would have died in the house or if he'd been like his aunt who passed away, who didn't know where he didn't know where he was, or he was always scared all the time. And I don't, like a scared child, I don't know if I could have handled that because that's how his aunt died. I mean, I visited her when she was in her nurse home in Attleboro, Massachusetts, and she didn't know where she was. She was frightened, and she knew that she was dying, but she didn't know exactly where she was. And I really could not have stood to see that in my husband. Um, Another thing that helped is when Papa Bear, and this happened before he died. Papa Bear did a video about how he put out a fire in this woman's house. He took her husband had a heart attack or something, or some sort of medical ailment. In a hurry, she took him to the hospital. She was cooking something on the stove, and she left the stove on. She took her husband to the hospital. He was dead within that visit, just pronounced dead after, I don't know what happened, flatline. And then she comes home to find out that her house is burning down because she left the stove on. And so when that happened, I guess she called the fire department, and Gary was a part of the crew that was called out to the house, and I guess her dog was still in the house, and she hysterically explained what was going on, and Gary just said, "We gotta save this dog. It's the only thing she's got left." So I thought of that story and counted my blessings because, however bad you think you have it, there are people out there that always have it infinitely worse. Can you imagine losing your husband and your house in the same day? So yeah, this has been a journey I never really wanted to take. I knew it was coming on some level. For the last, I wouldn't say the last year or so, I remember being out there loading wood. And on that very same day, if I'm not mistaken, I was loading wood. I was finishing up loading wood, and I heard Bill calling me from the garage, which is around. Come to find out that he'd fallen down and was calling for my help, and I finally found him. He was lucky he didn't break any bones. Same with I was on a trip, a 1 day turn, and I come home and the cellar doors open, the lights are all on. I didn't know what happened. Come to find out, he got dizzy. He fell on the ground again in the cellar because he wanted to go down and do some handiwork, to prove that he still could. And he had to call 911 again. So I had to go to the hospital to rescue him again. And so I was kind of the last 6 months living on tenterhooks. What's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? Um, at what point does it become? At what point is it going to be unsafe to leave him? So in a way, he kind of did me a favor by. I mean, I know he didn't plan it that way, but he. It was a blessing that he left me the way he did, and so that's life. It's post Bill. I'm going on 20 minutes, guys. I'm glad if you stuck with me this long. I'm really glad you did. I'm going to be going back to smoking pipes eventually. I was going to try and smoke a pipe during this, but there's just too much emotional stuff to keep, too many emotional plates to keep spinning. So I'm gonna post this. Finally, let you know what happened. Thank you for, thank you for watching. I'll be back soon, but I just wanted to finally get that video done, get it out there, and I hope you're all well. Like Bob says, and thank you to Bob too. Take care of those families. Cherish the people you have around you because you don't know when you're not going to have them around you. Um, Take care. We'll speak to you soon. À la prochaine.